The quantum arrays aboard the stellar monitoring station Helios had been collecting dust for 3 years. Dr. Sarah Chen often wondered why Earth's Space Administration even bothered installing the expensive equipment when traditional radio telescopes worked perfectly fine for deep space observation. Still, protocol demanded weekly diagnostic checks, so here she was at 300 hours, running another meaningless system test. The soft blue glow of Earth through the station's observation dome cast dancing shadows across her console. Sarah sipped her synthetic coffee, grimacing at the artificial taste. The station's recyclers could simulate almost anything, but they still couldn't quite nail coffee. The quantum array's diagnostic sequence reached 97% when something unprecedented happened. The system sparked to life with an ear-splitting shriek that sent her coffee tumbling to the floor. Across her holographic display, patterns of energy she'd never seen before danced in impossible configurations. Station. Analysis. Sarah commanded, her fingers flying across the console. Unknown quantum signature detected. The AI responded. Pattern suggests artificial origin. Detecting embedded data stream. Sarah's heart raced. In 15 years of deep space monitoring, she'd never encountered anything like this. Decrypt and display. The message that materialized before her made her blood run cold. Emergency BROADCAST. XYLAXIANTOLECTID. QUANTUM PLAGUEOUTVR. Civilization, Levial threat. CEK and AMMEDAKASSISTNC. All species, VELCON. Time, to TOTAL population loesis. 60 Earth days. The Xylaxians. Sarah had read about them in her xenobiology texts. They were among the most advanced civilizations known to exist, having evolved beyond purely organic life into a biosynthetic hybrid state centuries ago. They'd rarely communicated with lesser species, considering most biological life forms too primitive for meaningful interaction. Station. Verify authentication. Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. Verified. Quantum signature matches known Xylaxian protocols. Message is genuine. Sarah leaned back in her chair, mind reeling. The Xylaxians, masters of synthetic evolution, were facing extinction, and somehow their desperate plea had reached a human monitoring station. She opened a secure channel to Earth Command. This is Dr. Chen aboard Helios. Priority 1 alert. We've received a verified distress signal from the Xylaxian collective. They're reporting a quantum plague affecting their population. Request immediate. Dr. Chen, a new voice cut in. She recognized the gravelly tone of Admiral Zhang. Confirm you said quantum plague. Confirmed, Admiral. The message indicates total population loss within 60 days without intervention. A long pause followed. Sarah could almost hear the wheels of human bureaucracy grinding to life. Finally, Zhang spoke again. Doctor, what you're about to hear is classified level Omega. 3 months ago, our quantum research division discovered something unusual in human DNA. We found quantum entanglement patterns that shouldn't exist in organic matter. We kept it quiet because, frankly, we didn't understand what we were seeing. Sarah's scientific mind raced ahead of his words. You think there's a connection. Unknown. But you're the only xenobiologist who's also qualified in quantum mechanics. I'm authorizing Operation Quantum Mercy. You'll head the research team. The Xylaxians may think we're primitive, but sometimes it takes a primitive perspective to solve an advanced problem. Sarah looked out at the Earth glowing below, its surface a patchwork of lights and darkness. Humanity had faced its own plagues, its own near extinctions. They'd survived through determination, ingenuity, and often by thinking in ways no one else had considered. Understood, Admiral. When do we start? The USC Hawking will dock with Helios in 6 hours. It's our fastest, quantum-capable ship. Your team is being assembled now. Doctor, This isn't just about saving the Xylaxians. If this plague can affect their synthetic biology, we need to know if purely organic life forms could be next. As Sarah began preparations for departure, she couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Xylaxians had evolved beyond organic life, seeing it as a limitation. Now their survival might depend on the very species they'd dismissed as primitive. Perhaps being primitive wasn't such a disadvantage after all. She pulled up everything Earth had on Xylaxian biology, knowing the next 60 days would either mark humanity's greatest achievement in xenomedicine or witness the extinction of one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Either way, humanity would answer this call, not because they were advanced enough, but because they were human enough to try. The USC Hawking cut through space like a quantum scalpel, its experimental drive humming with possibilities that human scientists were only beginning to understand. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the ship's primary lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing the most complete data Earth had on Xylaxian biology. Next to her, Dr. Marcus Wong, Earth's leading expert in synthetic biology, shook his head in frustration. Their entire cellular structure is quantum-locked, Marcus muttered, manipulating a three-dimensional model of a Xylaxian cell. They've engineered themselves to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. It's brilliant, but it makes them vulnerable to quantum-level disruptions, Sarah finished. Like a house of cards built on a quantum scale. The lab door slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Yuki Tanaka entered, her military bearing softened by evident concern. We're receiving updated reports from Xylaxian space. The plague is accelerating. Their synthetic immune systems are failing faster than predicted. Sarah expanded the holographic display, revealing streams of data that painted an increasingly grim picture. The quantum plague wasn't just attacking the Xylaxians' synthetic biology. It was unraveling the very quantum foundations of their existence. Look at this pattern. She pointed to a recurring sequence in the data. Their synthetic systems are trying to adapt, but they're too perfect, too optimized. They've engineered out the very chaos that natural evolution requires. Marcus leaned closer, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the information. They've eliminated biological redundancy. No junk DNA, no backup systems. They saw them as inefficient. Inefficient, but necessary, Sarah replied, a theory forming in her mind. Captain, remember how early human computers were vulnerable to viruses because they were too standardized? How we had to introduce controlled chaos into our systems to make them more resistant? Yuki nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. You're suggesting we do the same to the Xylaxians. Introduce controlled biological chaos. Not exactly. Sarah pulled up her recent research on quantum patterns in human DNA. We introduce human quantum patterns. Our DNA naturally contains quantum irregularities, patterns that shouldn't exist but somehow do. They're messy, unpredictable, and completely foreign to the quantum plague. Marcus finished, excitement building in his voice. The plague is optimized for their perfect quantum systems. Our primitive patterns could be like digital antibodies. The ship's AI interrupted their discussion. Approaching Xylaxian space. Multiple vessels detected. Receiving transmission. A holographic figure materialized in the lab. A Xylaxian ambassador. Their biosynthetic form shimmered with an inner light that was noticeably dimming, evidence of the plague's effects. Terran vessel, we acknowledge your response to our distress call. But we must warn you. The quantum plague has already consumed 3 star systems. Your organic technology is too primitive to. With respect, Ambassador. Sarah stepped forward. Our primitive technology might be exactly what you need. We've identified quantum patterns in human DNA that could. Impossible. The ambassador's form flickered. Human DNA is far too chaotic to contain meaningful quantum information. Exactly, Sarah smiled. That chaos might be your salvation. Sometimes the most advanced solution is embracing imperfection. The ambassador was silent for a long moment, their synthetic systems visibly processing this unexpected proposal. Finally, they spoke. "Our medical facilities are at your disposal, Dr. Chen. Though I must note that if you fail, you will witness the extinction of our species." "If we fail," Sarah replied, "we'll fail knowing we tried everything possible to save you. That's what humans do." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her team. They had thousands of years of Xylaxian evolutionary engineering to unravel and less than 2 months to do it. But they also had something the Xylaxians had engineered out of their existence, the beautiful chaos of human ingenuity. "Let's get to work," she said, pulling up the quantum sequencing protocols. "It's time to show the galaxy that sometimes the most advanced civilizations need a primitive solution." The USC Hawking accelerated toward the heart of Xylaxian space, carrying humanity's chaotic quantum patterns toward a civilization that had engineered chaos out of existence. The race to save an advanced species with primitive DNA had begun. The central medical facility of the Xylaxian collective was a marvel of biosynthetic engineering, a structure that seemed to breathe with artificial life. But to Sarah Chen, its perfection now felt eerily like a mausoleum. Everywhere she looked, Xylaxians moved with decreasing efficiency, their once brilliant inner light dulling as the quantum plague consumed them system by system. "Your approach is illogical," First Medical Director Zix stated, their form flickering more severely than the others. "Introducing chaotic elements into our quantum matrix would undo centuries of evolutionary progress." Sarah continued preparing the quantum sequencer, a hybrid of human and Xylaxian technology that looked more like an art project than a medical device. Sometimes progress means taking a step backward to move forward. Marcus Wong worked beside her, his cybernetic eye streaming data directly to their makeshift lab's computers. "Director, your species achieved something remarkable, quantum-level biological engineering. But in perfecting your systems, you created a monoculture, one that's vulnerable to exactly this kind of attack." "The plague isn't just attacking your bodies," Sarah added, reviewing the latest scans. "It's attacking the quantum foundation of your consciousness. Your synthetic systems are too perfectly aligned, too predictable. Like a lock with too few combinations." A group of Xylaxian scientists observed their work, their biosynthetic forms clustering together in what Sarah had begun to recognize as a sign of distress. Despite their technological advancement, fear was still fear, regardless of species. "Initial trials ready," Marcus announced, gesturing to the quantum chamber they'd constructed. It hummed with possibilities, human chaos meeting Xylaxian precision. Sarah turned to Director Zix. "We need a volunteer." "I will participate." Zix stepped forward. "My systems are already 47% compromised. I have approximately 36 hours before total quantum collapse." As they helped Zix into the chamber, Sarah caught a glimpse of something in their flickering form. Not just fear, but hope. Perhaps the Xylaxians weren't as far removed from their organic origins as they believed. "Initiating quantum pattern transfer," Marcus announced. "Introducing human DNA chaos patterns in 3, 2, 1. The chamber filled with swirling light as human quantum patterns merged with Xylaxian biosynthetic systems. On their monitors, two vastly different approaches to existence began an impossible dance. "Quantum collapse accelerating," one of the Xylaxian scientists called out. "Director Zix's systems are failing." Sarah's hands flew across the controls. "No. Look at the pattern. The collapse isn't accelerating, it's redistributing. The chaotic patterns are creating quantum redundancies." Inside the chamber, Zix's form flickered violently, their perfectly ordered quantum matrix fighting against the introduction of human chaos. For a moment, their light dimmed completely. Then something remarkable happened. Zix's form stabilized, but differently than before. Their inner light no longer held the perfect symmetry of Xylaxian engineering. Instead, it pulsed with an organic rhythm, like a heartbeat. "Quantum plague presence, decreasing," Marcus reported, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the data. The chaotic patterns are creating protected pockets within the quantum matrix, like quantum antibodies. The chamber opened with a soft hiss. Director Zix emerged, their form stabilized but fundamentally changed. This sensation, it's unlike anything in our recorded history. I feel imperfect. Imperfect, Sarah smiled. And alive. The observing Xylaxians moved closer, their collective consciousness processing this unprecedented development. One by one, they began requesting the treatment. But as Sarah prepared for the next patient, a warning flashed across their monitors. The quantum plague was mutating, adapting to their solution faster than they could administer it. "We need to work faster," she announced, already modifying the protocols. "And we need to do something that goes against everything that Xylaxians believe in. We need to make the chaos worse." Marcus looked up from his calculations. "You want to increase the quantum irregularities. That could shatter their entire collective consciousness. Or it could save them." Sarah replied, watching as more Xylaxians arrived for treatment, their perfect forms diminishing by the hour. "Sometimes you have to break something apart to save it." As she prepared the modified treatment, Sarah realized they weren't just fighting a plague. They were challenging an entire civilization's understanding of existence. The question was, could the Xylaxians accept salvation if it meant becoming a little more human? The great hall of the Xylaxian Collective's medical center had been transformed into an emergency treatment facility. Thousands of biosynthetic forms lay in quantum stasis, their inner light barely flickering as Sarah Chen's team worked against time. The modified treatment chambers hummed with increasing intensity, human chaos challenging Xylaxian order on a quantum scale. Quantum plague adaptation rate increasing, Marcus reported, his cybernetic eye streaming data faster than their systems could process. "It's learning from each treatment we perform." Sarah studied the holographic displays surrounding her. The plague wasn't just adapting, it was evolving, showing signs of intelligence that shouldn't be possible in a quantum-level pathogen. "It's using their collective consciousness against them," she realized. "Every time we treat one, the plague learns through their quantum connection to the others." Director Zix, their form now pulsing with the irregular rhythm of human quantum patterns, approached the control station. "We must sever the collective consciousness," they announced, their voice carrying a new warmth that seemed almost organic. "It is the only way." The suggestion sent shockwaves through the facility. The Xylaxian collective consciousness wasn't just a communication network, it was the foundation of their civilization, their very definition of existence. "You can't be serious." First Conscience Fen, the highest-ranking Xylaxian present, stepped forward. Their form still maintained its perfect symmetry, untouched by human chaos. "The collective is what makes us Xylaxian. Without it, we become primitive. We become survivors," Zix countered, gesturing to their altered form. "Look at what the human patterns have shown us. In our pursuit of perfection, we engineered away our ability to truly evolve." Sarah's hands flew across the control panel, running simulations. "The plague is using your quantum interconnection to perfect itself. Every time it encounters our chaotic patterns, it learns a little more. We're running out of variations to try." The facility shuddered as another wave of the plague swept through nearby systems. More Xylaxians flooded into the treatment area, their once perfect forms deteriorating rapidly. "There's another option," Sarah said quietly, her mind racing ahead to an impossible solution. "We don't sever the collective consciousness. We infect it with chaos." Marcus turned to her sharply. "You want to introduce human quantum patterns into their entire collective at once. The computational requirements alone would be impossible by any normal means," Sarah agreed. "But we're not limited to normal means anymore." She turned to Director Zix. "Your collective consciousness works because you're all quantum entangled. What if we use that entanglement to our advantage?" Understanding dawned in Zix's altered features. "A quantum cascade." Use one transformed consciousness to trigger changes in all connected systems. A shock to our collective would be catastrophic, Venn protested. Millions of minds experiencing chaos simultaneously. Better than billions experiencing extinction, Sarah countered. She pulled up new calculations, her fingers dancing across holographic numbers. We can use Director Xyx as the primer. Their consciousness has already stabilized with human patterns. If we amplify those patterns through your quantum network, you would change what we are, Venn said softly. Everything we've worked to become. No, Sarah met their gaze. I would help you become something new. Neither purely Xylaxian nor human, but a fusion of both. Order and chaos in balance. The facility shuddered again, more violently this time. On the monitors, red warnings flashed as the plague accelerated its spread through nearby systems. Time to decide, Marcus announced grimly. Plague adaptation rate is approaching critical. In 20 minutes, no variation of our treatment will work. Director Xyx stepped into the central quantum chamber. I volunteer again. If we must choose between evolution and extinction, I choose evolution. Sarah looked to First Conscience Venn, waiting. The fate of an entire civilization hung on their decision. Venn's perfect form flickered once, then steadied. Proceed, Dr. Chen. Show us what chaos can create. As Sarah initiated the quantum cascade sequence, she couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity, long dismissed as too primitive, was about to fundamentally change one of the most advanced species in known space, not through superior technology or perfect engineering, but through the very chaos that Xylaxians had sought to eliminate. The cascade began, and with it, the transformation of an entire civilization. The question wasn't just whether they would survive, but what they would become. The quantum cascade rippled through Xylaxian space like a tidal wave of consciousness, transforming everything it touched. Sarah Chen watched from the medical center's observation deck as the perfect symmetry of Xylaxian civilization dissolved and reformed into something entirely new. The crystalline cities that had once pulsed with rigid precision now flowed with organic rhythms, their structures adapting and shifting like living things. 3 weeks after the cascade, Sarah stood before the newly formed Council of Synthesis, her final report ready. The chamber itself reflected the changes in Xylaxian society. Gone were the perfect geometric patterns, replaced by an elegant fusion of order and chaos. Director Xyx, now bearing the title of First Synthesis, led the proceedings. Their form shimmered with an inner light that danced between patterns, neither purely synthetic nor fully organic. Dr. Chen, you have remade our civilization. Some would say you have destroyed it. Others claim you have saved it. Perhaps both are true. The quantum plague has been completely eradicated, Sarah reported, gesturing to her final scans. Your new quantum matrices are too unpredictable for it to gain any foothold. But more importantly, you've gained something else. The ability to truly evolve again. Marcus Wong, standing beside her, added his own observations. The fusion of human quantum patterns with your biosynthetic systems has created something unprecedented. You're now capable of both engineered advancement and natural adaptation. You have both paths open to you. The council chamber hummed with the new form of collective consciousness, no longer a rigid network of perfectly aligned minds, but a flowing exchange of thoughts that preserved individual chaos within collective harmony. We are exploring experiences that have been lost to us for centuries. Another council member, formerly a pure rationalist, spoke with wonder. Imagination, intuition, dreams, these primitive functions we engineered away. They have value we never understood. And yet, First Synthesis Xyx noted, we retain our advanced capabilities. We have not regressed, as some feared. Instead, we have expanded. We are both more and less than we were. And in that contradiction, we have found new strength. Sarah watched the play of quantum energies through the chamber, each Xylaxian consciousness now a unique pattern of order and chaos. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to embrace contradictions, she said. We are rational and emotional, orderly and chaotic, individual and collective. We never try to engineer away our imperfections. We learn to draw strength from them. A lesson we have forgotten, Six acknowledged. In pursuing perfection, we had created the perfect conditions for our own extinction. Your primitive chaos saved us from our advanced stagnation. The council chamber's displays showed scenes from across Xylaxian space, civilizations adapting, evolving, creating new forms of art and science that would have been impossible under their old rigid systems. The quantum play had forced them to change, but that change had opened doors they never knew existed. We have a proposal. First Synthesis 6 announced. The Xylaxian Collective. No, the Xylaxian Synthesis would like to establish a permanent exchange of knowledge with Earth, not as advanced beings uplifting primitives, but as equals with different perspectives to share. Sarah smiled, thinking of all the possibilities this new partnership could create. I think humanity would be very interested in such an exchange. Then let this be the first of many collaborations, Six gestured, and the chamber filled with a breathtaking display of quantum artistry, patterns of energy that danced between order and chaos, synthetic and organic, human and Xylaxian. We have learned that true advancement lies not in eliminating imperfection, but in finding perfection within imperfection itself. As Sarah prepared to return to Earth, she took one last look at the transformed Xylaxian civilization. They had come seeking to save an advanced species from extinction. Instead, they had helped them rediscover something they had lost: the beautiful chaos of life itself. The USC Hawking broke orbit, carrying its human crew back toward Earth. Behind them, the Xylaxian worlds pulsed with new life and possibility, their perfect order forever transformed by human chaos. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all, that sometimes the most advanced civilizations need to be reminded of the strength found in being just a little bit primitive.